at Sabrachi Jewelry Design, or Sabrachi. I don't even say his name right anymore because of Zach. He's a sponsor of Now We Go, and he's a sponsor of this show. He's a dual sponsor. He's a gemologist. He's a jeweler. He's specialized in CAD design, and he's also a branding specialist. You need anything at all done in those categories, Matt is the best motherfucker for that. It's D'Antonio and Klein Jewelers in Philadelphia, PA, and he's also going to be doing it soon to be in Lehigh Valley, PA. You can call or DM for appointments. He's in Philly on 726 Sanson Street, and you can follow him on social media at Sabrachi Jewelry Design. He's made pendants for finishers. We're working on stuff together. It's not just jewelry. We're working on pendants and all kinds of things. He's making rings. He can do anything that you need, from design to gems to jewelers. He is the real deal, and I'm excited. He's a childhood friend who grew a diamond business. He's a jeweler. We did a podcast with him. It's a cool story. Check him out. Sabrachi Jewelry Designs. Mad J's Barbecue, www.madjsbarbecue.com. They take cash, they take credit card. You can order online. Order online is the easiest for everybody. They can also call in their order. They got 2 locations. They are killing the barbecue game. Started out small. Now these guys got 2 separate locations. They're doing catering. They're doing pop-ups at Seven Sirens Brewery. What else can these guys do? The Nazareth location is over at 52 East Lawn Road. Anybody knows where Nazareth is? It's down past 7-Eleven, right next to Rita's. Shout out Calandra. They are at 52 East Lawn Road, and that's 610-365-7275, and www.madjsbarbecue.com. Justin just opened up the second location, and he is a part of Willow Creek Brewery, and that is 643 Penn Avenue, West Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm going to be having these guys on the show, and they are crushing barbecue, catering, in-store, pickup. They're doing it all, man. They're doing it all. Check them out at madjsbarbecue.com, and thank you for being a sponsor. Eric K. Dowdle, defense attorney. We had him on the show, and what crazy stories this guy's had. He's helped a ton of people over the years, and if you're looking for help, he is your guy. You can contact them at 610-882-3000, and it's ekdefense.com. Do you have a pending court case? Do you have a court appearance and need a defense lawyer? Do you need proper representation? Felony, misdemeanor, drug offense, assault, homicide, DUI, traffic violation, appeals. Reach out to Eric. Check out the podcast we did with him as well. It has his whole story on there. If you need help, Eric is here to help you. He sponsors the show. We appreciate it. He's going to be doing a monthly thing with us. Eric will be a part of the family now. Thank you for sponsoring.
I came back a second time. I forget if he was in between or not.
Yeah.
But, I wasn't able to talk on that one as well.
Well, now you can talk freely because you're by yourself. Yes.
The second one, I lost my voice.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's why you couldn't talk on the second one. You came back for redemption, and you literally couldn't talk at all.
So this is my first official show, I would say.
Yes. I can't believe that's how that all...
Yeah, that was terrible.
I fucking forgot that's how that whole thing went down, is that you couldn't talk on the first... Or he wouldn't let you talk on the first one because we were wasted, and then the second time you lost your voice. And then, because I remember we did like the promo, that was video, because we used to do the promos afterwards. I was telling you about the new spot. I'm definitely bringing green screen back. Like, that was fun to make the guests do all kinds of shit and have like props over there. But now full video, and we're fucking moving. So you came in at the right time. I've always kind of wanted to pick through your story. Your social media is fucking really cool, and you have an eye for taking really awesome pictures of cars. How did you get into photography, and how did you get into cars? Was it 2 things that fell in the same way, or how was it?
100%. I'm in the cars. Always been in the cars. My dad was a mechanic. I've always gone to races growing up, everything, all that. And
was your dad or your parents, anybody gearing when you were growing up, or your grandfather in the shop?
We always had stuff, or we had relatives with anything with 4 wheels and an engine. We just always, I was always drawn toward that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, then digital camera started coming out, and it's like, I just like to make them look good, and it just fell into that. And, you go to races, you want to take pictures of, all the cars.
How long ago was this?
This was
because you've been doing photography for fucking how long?
Everybody asks me that question, and I can never really pick a true start time. But I've been around it for most of my life. The cars all of my life, so. So when did digital cameras start coming out? I don't know, late or early 2000s, mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started building my car in 2001.
Yeah. What kind of cars were you originally into?
Well, we started with the muscle cars,
Yeah.
but BMWs that's all we ever had, So just stuck with that. I'm still doing that now.
Did you transition out of the muscle cars and just like driving the BMWs more, or was it just something with like the more you could do with it, or just the look of it? I mean,
it's more modern. It's more your age. You're growing up with the car kind of thing. So, because now you see all the progression of how where they started and where they're at now. So it's cool to actually pick a car that's similar to your age. Is actually my car's only 2 years I think older than me. Yeah. So just to grow up with that car, like I'm saying, and get to be able to drive all the cars like when you're of age. Then I don't know, I think that's a cool.
So what was the first
aspect.
project car you had? Was it a BMW?
Yep, and I still have it to this day.
Is that the red one?
It's the gray one.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you're like, oh, just get rid of it. The prices right now are insane. I'm like, yeah, but I'll still feel it here when I sell it.
Yeah.
So,
what was the first thing you did to it?
Restore it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Needed some motor work, needed some body work. I'm like, might as well do the whole thing, do it all. So I learned on that car. I learned everything about cars.
And you were just working full time, dumping all your money into the car?
I was 12.
You were 12?
I was 12. Yeah. So obviously my dad, had a lot of help. Helped me out a lot with that. So, but I did a lot of the work myself, or learn how to do it, or helped.
And then when you turned 16, that was your car.
Yep. So
that's cool.
Hey, if you want a car to drive, you can build that. I'm like, okay, but I didn't mind.
Where did you find the car at? Was it like a junkyard find, or was it like you guys kind of picked it out? Or, I mean,
so my dad was a BMW mechanic, so he had cars laying around.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, I want the fastest one you have,
Yeah.
So yeah, I picked that one out, and ended up being a rare car too. So now my newer BMWs are also rare cars. So I just have a thing for rare cars.
Yeah.
I like the. I don't know, just like having something different.
Yeah, I figured you grew up around it, just from the little bit we talked in the other shows and just the interacting and whatnot, and then seeing how your social media is. That's really cool that you got to get a car that young, and then like kind of like how long was it like a long, you just kept doing different stuff to it? Like what, I mean, is the car finished in your opinion?
It's never finished.
Yeah.
Ask any car guy. Yeah. It's never finished.
Well, that's how I am with the studio. Like I'm always like, all right, I got down here, and Jesse's like, we're not moving, and I'm like, yeah, we'll be a little bit longer at this one, but we're definitely moving. And then, we got to a point, and then I've outgrown it. So now, like moving, like that, that's like a whole new thing for me. So it's like in that studio, like the studio will never be finished because I can constantly keep changing it. And then it's like, oh, well, I can do this with it, I can do that with it, I can do this with it, and then you fall in love with doing that. And then when you understand the concept of you can just keep changing it, it's something you can't get rid of. I don't think I'll ever not have a studio at this point now.
And everything's always changing too. Now everything's changing so fast too. Like I feel like we gotta slow down a little bit, and just like
then you can't keep up.
Yeah, it's every week there's something, I don't know, some new phrase or something coming out. It's just crazy. I can't keep up with any of it.
How did you go about deciding like how to design, and like even to the paint, and like, I mean, at 12 years old, I'm just trying to wrap my head around like how many ridiculous ideas you must have had that your father told you no, and then like how you kind of come up with exactly what you wanted.
I don't know. Like I said, even when I was young, I just looked at cars and their art, and you see something that's stock, but I always wanted to change it. I wanted to add it, add something to it, tweak it a little bit. So I just kind of, like I said, everything changes as you're going. So got new parts, new things were coming out. So it kind of changed as I went. You have pretty much a vision what you have or what you want, and you just kind of.
When did you start driving it? Did he let you drive it before 16?
Well, I drove,
around the yard.
Cars around the yard. Yeah.
Dude, I did that. My parents, it was like one of the first times they left me home alone, and they had an old Toyota. It was like a little box car. It was brown. It was my uncle's. He gave it to my brother for his first car, and then my brother got another car, and they just kept it because it was like a reliable car.
Yeah.
But it was like so dumb simple that like I was like turn key, drive. And then like, so I would put it in drive and I would put it into first and I would drive around the yard and then I would come back and park it. But like, there was like a little bit of fresh snow on the ground and like I was so young and like my parents came home. My dad, like, I still remember him like standing by the window and he's like taking a drink of coffee or whatever. And he's like, who drove the car around the yard? And then the phone rings and the neighbor's like, hey, Michael was driving around the neighborhood again and drove around the backyard. Like, and then I look back on some of the shit I did and he didn't, surprisingly, he like let it go because it was just so ridiculous that I did it. And he was like, hey, don't do that at all.
Right.
And I was like, okay. Like, there wasn't like a beating. Like, I thought I was going to be in a lot of trouble. And he was just like, hey, man, like, do not drive.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, you didn't hit anything, so
no,
maybe
not that time. But it was just so
time.
dumb, like, to think that, like, because I got off on it where, like, I would get off the bus. I told no one I was doing this. I just enjoyed getting away with it. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I'd come home, throw all my school shit off, and I had this like small window of time where I'd be left alone sometimes because my little brother was doing something and my other brother was in sports. And then like I'd get off the bus and I would just get in the car and would just quick drive around the neighborhood. And sometimes like my neighbors would be out and I'd like beep at them like because I was caught, like, you know what I mean? So I didn't know if like you drove around and did stupid shit like that in your car.
No, I didn't.
Not even around the yard?
Around the yard, yeah. I mean, we always had manual cars. Like,
Yeah.
We never had automatics. It's just, what we had.
That's cool that you grew up learning manual.
Yeah, and I mean, I wanted to anyway, but my dad's like, here, drive around the yard. If you hit something out here, it's our stuff,
Yeah.
whatever. Just learn basic, driving, whatever.
Yeah.
So-
I feel like manual, is that even like an option anymore?
It's hard to find.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the new manuals are too assisted, too.
What do they do
just
for the new
soft
manuals? The
feeling.
paddle shifting?
Paddle
Because like when
shifting,
I had my Benz, there was never a manual option. It was always just paddle shifting, and I never thought that was anything like driving manual at all.
It's not. There's a different feel to it. Everyone's going to tell you something different.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be, oh, no, it's better, I just like to feel. Like, I like lower horsepower manual cars that handle well balanced,
Yeah, because you
That's
can't
just my
stall out on paddle shifting, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've definitely stalled out in my dad's Volkswagen Bug on a hill. It's nothing like paddle shifting.
Yeah, but there's so many different kinds of paddle shifting, too. And
Yeah.
There's just so much out there anymore, and,
So
when
both of your cars are older ones where it's like full manual?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Now my newer car, if you got like the basic model, of that, it was, they have like electric steering, which I don't want. Like I've had all three at one time. I've had electric steering, power steering, and no power steering at all. All three cars at the same time. I'm like, get to pick what I want to drive today,
Yeah.
And my favorite was always the either, no power steering or, the hydraulic. The electric you can change and it's cool. Like I understand the, technology and I appreciate the technology, but it just doesn't have the same feel, Like you want something raw that you can feel the road.
Yeah, my dad just said that the other day. He was talking about he was watching a car show or some shit, and my dad was into cars growing up, and he had it was cheap to get cars back then, so he had like Bugs. He had a Mach 1 that he said he would have kept, except for he let his buddy Tootie take it on a date, and he got drunk and put it into a brick wall. Like he still like talks about that car, like the color that was like burnt orange, and it was just he showed it to me. He has like one picture of it, and I was like, yo, that's like a bad car, like that's fucking awesome. And he's like, it's the only one I would have kept. But he had Bugs back in the day, and then they would like work on him and stuff. So he had like a spotlight he put on the back, so then when people were tailgating him, he'd flip a switch and they'd be fucking blind. He's got awesome stories, but he was into cars a lot. And then just growing up, he grew up in that era, like you said, with like the muscle cars and that. Yep. And you could go out and buy all these fucking awesome cars, and they were a couple $100. And if you were working, like, he came back from Vietnam and was working, so he would get, like, 1 week he'd have the Volkswagen Bug, then he would trade it in or buy it, the van, and then he had a van for a while, and he would just go in and out all these different, like, what's kind of like car culture now for back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was talking about that the other day, was about how he's like, you can't feel the road. And then I was just like, man, that, because when you get into the older cars, it's like sometimes it's like a motherfucker to turn them, and you're like, damn, like, because even with like his Bug still, it's like an older Bug, and every summer we always just say like, oh, we're gonna get it back on the road, and he just never finds anyone who can just like correctly get it running.
Yeah.
Everybody's either too busy or too expensive, and I think this year he's actually going to do it. But I drove that to work a couple times, and it was like a short shift, and it was like basically driving like a fucking lawnmower, and I was like, and I'm like, there's no. I don't think there's suspension in the year that he had, and then like you had spring seats, so you're like going like this, and I'm just like, yeah, it's fun. There's no air conditioning, like there's like you like turn the window vents so like the air comes in. It's definitely like an experience drive. Like there's no radio in that, like, and it's just loud and it's just rah. It's fun. It's fun to drive. I think there's only 4 gears in it. Like, it's just fucking, like, it's a go-kart. Like, so, I know what you're talking about with that, but sometimes it's cool to get in cars like that. And just kind of, like, drive around on back roads and just, they definitely suck in traffic, or if, like, you're going up hills, and, like, I definitely, like, am not the best at manual driving, but, like, yeah, it's fun getting into that. But I know what you're saying with you don't feel the road at all.
Yeah.
Especially in like when you get into like the BMWs and the Mercedes, and like when the technology is like really, really there. Mm-hmm. The first time my buddy Kevin worked at a dealership, and he was like, yo, I can get you in this. And it was the white one I had with like the red seatbelts and shit. And it was all fucking decked out. I'm like, dude, I'd never be able to afford it. And he like got some deal where I was like, you know, it was like a fucking $40,000 to $60,000 car I was paying like $200 a month for. Like, everyone was always like, why'd you get that car? And I'm like, I would have never, like, why wouldn't I have done that? I knew I would never get that opportunity again. So I basically had it and just beat the piss out of it. And then when when he left there, the guy was like, hey, your payment's going to be like almost $600. And I was like, bye. But that was my first introduction to a vehicle of that, like, that style. And then I was like, oh wow, like, you know, I still think about that car, and I bought one after I had that one around this. I couldn't find the exact year, but I found one close, and then like that was fun, like hunting a used Mercedes and like falling back in love with like the feel, because I remember I test drove it and I was like, dude, because the stereo system in the year that I had it in was awesome. So like it's really just, it's a driving experience, and I never went through that. I always just had like a fucking just stupid cars growing up, and I never had something nice like that. And it's definitely something that I think that I'll get down the road again. And I could see why you fall in love, especially at 12 years old, being introduced to shit like that. Yeah, it must have been really cool to grow up that way.
Yeah, and like I said, that's like one of the reasons I can't. I was like, oh, just sell it. I'm like,
yeah,
what? Like, I literally grew up with the car, you know, put everything into it.
It was hard for me to sell that one. I got back into that older Mercedes, and then I didn't want to get rid of it. I really like it. I enjoy driving it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I need the van to start doing the pop-ups, and then like in the back of my head, I was like, dude, you could definitely find this car again. It's not something rare. It's just something that meant a lot to me because I experienced driving a vehicle like that for the first time and really fell in love with it. It's weird that like you can find that in automobiles.
Yeah. And you know, even now, like, you can get the luxury, you can get the power all in one thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just crazy what they did with cars now anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, that car, I mean, probably isn't considered fast to like the stuff that you fuck around with, but like that's the first time where I was introduced to like Sport Plus, and I was like, what's that? And then I was like, yo, I'm driving like a lunatic on the highway, and I'm just like boom, 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 I'm going in and out, and like that stuff's crazy with the technology where like you go into Sports Plus, and then like the suspension changes, like everything, the brakes now change, and then it's like it's tighter driving, and then like I'd be driving my friends' places, and I'm like, boop, and I'm like, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I love that shit. I'm very fortunate now that the van only does 75, and that's it. And then, like, I see cops, and I'm like, oh, no,
yeah,
good.
Don't gotta worry about that. Yeah. Actually happened to me today.
You got pulled over?
No, there's a cop there. I was like, I can't go fast enough in this vehicle, you know?
So when did you kind of start realizing that you had talent and an eye for photography, and just kind of like, you know, from the little I've known with just using my phone, the amount of repetition until I started thinking that what I was taking pictures of looked good was a long time. So, I mean, I feel like photography to get a skill like that has to be something that you do repetitively over and over and over and over and actually put a lot of fucking effort into. Because everyone will be like, oh, your pictures look cool. And I'm like, I take 200 every time I go hiking every day. And then like, I didn't even realize what I was doing. I was just getting social media content. And then the one day I was like, oh, these look cool. I mean, I'm cheating with like portrait mode and all that kind of shit. But like at the same time, you have to still look at a correct angle and like understand like what looks cool to you. And I feel like you found a niche in like you found your style and you found a way that like you like taking photography, but on the perceiving end of it, it like really looks fucking awesome. And that's not easy to do at all. Like, the cameras help, but like you still have to know what the fuck you're looking at.
Yeah, and I think the way I look at cars helps with the photography aspect,
which probably from growing up in it.
Yeah, and like again, like I look at a lot of cars like art, and
yeah,
so you add another art aspect to it. Now it kind of flows together, and yeah, people always ask me, they want advice like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do this? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, honestly, it's art, and like if you think this looks good, I'm like, yeah, you can tweak it a little bit. There's rules and stuff to follow in photography, which I never went to school for. I don't read very well, so I kind of just, that's basic, camera skills. Just tweak it. It's all digital now.
Yeah.
So you can kind of just work up to it and look at other people's things and kind of learn from there, and just kind of. I put my own feeling behind it, but kind of take ideas from other people, kind of just to, I like that. Oh, I also like that, and kind of mesh them together and kind of find your own place. But
yeah. No, I think it's important you said that, because I do that a lot with cooking and anything really. Is like you kind of find a base of like what you're looking to make. So like if especially the smash burger. So it's like when I first saw that, it was the onion burger that George Motes was doing. Then I saw a couple. Who was it? It was somebody. What was Motes was doing that, and then I started just playing around with making them, and then like I saw other people were making them, and I was like, oh, people are making their own version of this, and then I was like, all right, well, I don't want to do what somebody else is doing, so like you just start getting into your own lane, and then eventually I would like take things off, add things, and then it came to be what the smash burger is. But it wasn't like I was just making that. Like it was fucking 2 years of making different burgers obsessively until I found what I wanted. And then now that I have that, like I just kind of like I get bored with that, and I'm like, all right, cool, like I want to make something else. But like you can't just like, I don't like copying other people's shit, but like how this all started was I was like, cool, I need it to look like Joe Rogan's show. That's all I knew. And then all right, cool, I need to have a conversation like they do. But like now the show's grown into its own format, which took 7 years.
That's crazy.
And then people are like, hey, how do you do that? Like, give up everything, move in with your parents, get a fucking studio 5 times, and then figure it the fuck out by making no money off of it until year 7.
Yep. It's always that leap that people don't want to take.
It was scary for me. We were talking about it, and I'll build up to like you kind of doing that, but like it's not easy to do that because like one, you're told that you have to have a job, you have to have a career, you have to have insurance, you have to have a home, you have to have a baby. Like, I don't think people growing up now are hearing that, but the generation that I grew up in, like, it was still the college generation. If you didn't go to college, you were a loser. Now you work at a factory.
Yep.
And then it's just like, so, there's all of those parallels going on where you think that you have to stay with what you're doing. And then when you find something that you love, like photography and that, then it's like, all right, well, how do I make money off that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, then you got to like, I don't know what to do. And then you got to work and do it at the same time. And, the more people I meet, it always just comes to a way of like, you're given an option. It's either do it or don't. And then that's usually when it happens. I feel like you don't get to choose when to do that.
Yeah. And, you always have to sell yourself, too. And, like, you become, you just meet so many people, just to... I lost my train of thought.
You're all right,
That's
dude.
my brain. I don't even know where I was going. Something with, like...
Well, no, like when you're networking and stuff, and then you have to, like, sell yourself to other people, It's like you're not just having to run a business, you're also having to sell yourself to make money.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, you're not even ready to do that. And then you have to do that. And then there's this like awkward beginning phase where it's like, you know, like, hey, like I think my value is $1 and could you give it to me? And then you look back on shit and you're like, man, I can't believe I did all that shit for free and cheap.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's not easy to do that. And then it's like, and it's like the same thing for me anyways, personally. It was always like, I get mad and then I'm like, fuck it. Like this year, I'm not fucking doing this shit for free.
Yeah.
And then like I have to like change this version of myself that's way too nice.
Yep.
And then you have to be like almost, it's funny when you start learning when people are like, business is business. And then when you start looking at it that way and taking emotions out and being like, no, well, I am charging you this because this is how I pay rent.
Yeah.
You don't get this for free. Yep. But who really does get high-end photography for free? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you should be paying me.
Yeah.
Why aren't you paying me?
Yep.
Like, I don't know.
Yep.
It gets fucking weird.
Yeah, you know, you start out, you do a lot of work for free. You gotta build yourself up somehow. You know, you're gonna
And your portfolio.
Yeah.
Let's get into that. How did you start your portfolio?
I really just started taking photos, you know, of cars, like my car, obviously, like for myself, just because I like the art. I like, you know, look at the car or whatever. And then, you know, the internet comes out and
what did you do first? Did you start doing Facebook?
I hated Facebook.
I still do.
Yeah.
It's just a cesspool of people complaining.
I think the first time I got Facebook, my friends told me to download it because they were in Iraq, Afghanistan. Like, this is the only way we can talk. I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, that is right. There were people, because I remember a couple people, like, that's how originally it was, where you could stay in touch with people and you, like, wrote on their wall.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Actually,
I forgot about that.
It was probably MySpace. Yeah. It wasn't the way it is now, where you're getting notifications and fucking groups and yard sales and...
That's all. I think that's all my page is. It's just the groups that I'm in. You're like, oh, I have this group. It's all car groups. And it's like, because someone asked me, I'm like, unfollow you. I said, I really don't want to. I don't want to know what you're doing today. I don't care. I don't, because, like, you know, you get on there, you start going, and I don't really.
No, I Instagram is kind of turning into it, but Instagram is way more manageable, where it's like if somebody's just posting way too much about their life, I'll either just mute it or like it's just like it just gets to a point where I'm like, yo, I don't care.
Yeah.
I have way too much shit going on. Yep. And when I go on here, there's just some shit I don't care about. And as stupid and as rude as that may sound, that's how real life is. Like if you go to a bar and some guy starts talking your ear off and you don't want to fucking hear about it, you get up and you walk away or you turn your back to him. That's, to me, that's social media, and it ain't real.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. I don't even want to get into the topic because I would leave Facebook if I wasn't like
business.
But if I wasn't doing business with it. And I think I still might leave it anyways, because I turned all my notifications off, because like they lie to you about like, oh, hey, you have 3 notifications, and you go on, you don't have any. Then now you're just in the app. And then I'm like, why do I care that this lady's parakeet died? Get out of here. I don't fucking care.
It's all intentional, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, these aren't real notifications.
Yeah, then you got your GoFundMes for people's fucking cats that die. I'm like, get out of here, dude. Get out of here.
And then you start getting on cat videos.
Then you start getting pissed. Then I get pissed off, and I'm like, yo, I don't fucking care. I don't care. There's way more going on than we have to raise money so your fucking dog's broken foot can get fixed.
Well, you know, people lose themselves in that, though, and they think that's real life.
Yeah. No, I mean, I follow the train wrecks for like... That's always good, you know, like just watching that horse shit, or like people fucked up on drugs, or like posting late night way too wasted. That stuff, you know, you got to keep those as like star them for your favorites. Other than that, it's a cesspool. It's an absolute cesspool. Too many people can get a hold of you now. Like just my messenger, I'll go in there and it's just like odd people, and then I'm just like, what? Like, why are you allowed to talk to me? Like, you like remember when you used to have somebody's phone number?
Yeah. You can't remember anybody's number anymore.
You don't even need to do that anymore. Like, because I started getting too many texts and calls. Like, I'm like old school in the sense of like, don't bother me on a Sunday. I feel like Sundays, you shouldn't bother people. That's the closeout of the week. And people are usually, when I grew up, it was family shit and we didn't do anything. So like my Sundays are really the only day I don't do anything. I'm either hungover and I don't want to talk to you, or I'm just chilling out and like relaxing. So like I'll have people like contacting me and be like, hey, this, that, and that. And I'm just like, dude, it's Sunday. Why do you have my number? Like it's just I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, we're getting sidetracked. Yeah. I don't care. This is a conversation. This is how we'd be talking.
Well, I was gonna say about the internet.
Yeah.
It's like you can dumb yourself down on the internet, or you can make yourself really smart. Like, there's you can go both ways with it.
Yeah.
There's so much information on there. It's like
Yeah.
anything you want to know.
I do
you
love
can
it in
learn
that
from there.
aspect. Like
Yeah.
YouTube, I get a lot of cooking stuff from, which is why I'm excited to do a cooking show, because there's so much information that's not out there, but also is out there. And like, that's where, I mean, taking it back to finding a base, like, you know, like my buddy's like, let's do nachos this weekend for the fights because it's Cinco de Mayo. And I'm like, fuck yeah. And then I'm like, all right, well, let's like do something ridiculous. So like, I'm going to start getting into like nachos and look up Maddie Matherson and like, go, like, and then I'll find a thing and be like, hey, let's do this. Like, I love that aspect of it, but like, the soapbox of people is just too much. So where did you start? Did you start like a group that like you posted in, or did you just start posting on your wall? Like, what did you do in the beginning?
So somehow I remember this site called Car Domain, and you literally just post pictures of your car and the bill.
Yeah.
And, well, you can have different pages of, you know, whatever you want, but it was all just kind of like a Facebook or
For
Instagram
cars.
for cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it started there, and then, you know, I don't even know what was in between that. That was a long time ago. That
Yeah,
was
I feel like they don't even like
06,
do
07,
shit
08,
like that
something.
anymore.
Yeah. And like the forums got big.
Yeah.
You know, so that's probably what was in between that. You know, go to that Car Domain, then you have the forums, and then started doing like, you know, obviously Facebook was coming out probably around that time.
Yeah.
So, but I was never really using it. But once Instagram, like once I figured out about that, that's when
I love
you know,
Instagram.
Yeah, that was my
There's
thing.
a lot of annoyances that come with Instagram, but to have an app like that and a palette to put up like art, photography, you can make money off of it. You could like, it is I think it's a really beneficial tool that is, I just fuck with that. That my Facebook, it's just posts from Instagram. I turn off all notifications. I don't even go to Facebook anymore. But like, Instagram's just so awesome. It's so user friendly. I remember in the beginning when you couldn't post videos, and then like it was just, and you had to do it off your phone. But then I was like, wow, that is such a cool concept, because you couldn't just, like, you could definitely do loopholes, because I had to start doing that for the videos. But like, I really like the fact that you had to post from your phone. Like, you still can't post from a computer on
Actually,
YouTube.
you can.
You can now
on Instagram.
On Instagram,
yeah,
you can.
I just looked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I just happened to look. I'm never on my computer for that.
Yeah.
you
I never
post.
did that because you couldn't post on
Yep.
there. So now you can post from your computer.
Yep.
I wonder why they changed it, because it's so backwards.
Yeah, right. Like you should start with that. But
Yeah.
the hashtagging is weird on the computer though, because it doesn't save them.
Yeah.
So there's no like, you know,
Hashtagging is still a motherfucker. I
my
still
God.
hate doing it.
copy
'Cause
paste. But I'm
the
doing different cards every day.
I think if you
know?
the copy paste thing, I think like started fucking up my algorithm or something. I mean that shit, like this week, because I took a day off, like my numbers are terrible. Like terrible. Like there's zero traction at all. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I should have kept up with it. It's almost like they punish you if you don't constantly fucking post.
Oh yeah.
So like I was just like, all right, I got to ramp up. So this week I've just been double, triple posting, and it's still not back. And I'm like, it'll swing back. It always does.
Yeah.
They just kind of close the door sometimes on it. But I love Instagram. I think it's like having like if you have the correct shit that you want and you weed out the crap, like it's like looking through like a Maxim magazine for me.
Yeah.
It's just cars, girls, tattoos, you know what I mean? Like, but that's what I want to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I post my shit, and it's like I follow people, and then like, you know, I do enjoy seeing some people's shit, or like you have a great page, like your photography is always cool. I always like when you do it well. I'm like, when you follow people who do shit well on there, and they're like running a business and like doing things out of it, and they're doing it like at full capacity, like it's fun to follow stuff like that, because that's usually your downtime when you're looking at that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm always trying to post as much as I can every day, something different. But I get a lot of feedback from like my close friends. They're like, I see your progression, and like I see you getting better. Every
Yeah,
day.
it's
And,
cool
like,
getting that
And
feedback.
that's the best, and that's the best. That's always the best payment to me. Like,
Yeah.
it's like when I send the photos to them, I show them all the photos. They're like, these are amazing, and like their reactions just makes me feel awesome. Like that's the best thing. And I love making people happy, like making people laugh. So anything like that, just it's better than anything. So
when you started kind of getting into building up your social media for Instagram, what was that like to start getting the attention like that? And then did people start reaching out to you? Because I know then you started having the capability of like really capturing some very unique cars that not really a lot of people have access to, which is what I think is one of the most unique, dopest parts of your story is like when you got to do that and kind of like when that whole thing changed.
Yeah, definitely gets you in touch with other people.
Yeah.
And then you start networking and you start just knowing people here and there, and you work your way up. If you're not using people, you're always just
piggybacking,
yeah. And they know them, oh, you know them, and then you keep building up and you get to where you want, and you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy.
What was the beginning? What was the first kind of offer to come and start taking like the super high-end exotic cars? What was that like to get that contact? Because that's got to be weird as like you were into cars since you're 12, you know cars, you know all this stuff. You start getting into your BMWs, you start getting into photography, and then this app comes along. And then now, like, I didn't even really touch on the amount of networking you can do through Instagram. And then, now you have the opportunity to just kind of be around these cars that people don't normally get to photograph.
Yeah. I don't even know how I got there.
Yeah.
I just want to be around the cars all the time, and whoever's there has it. It's like, okay, just get in contact any way you can. Like, again, it's just piggybacking off of someone else, and I know them that does this, and if you put out good work, and honest work, and all that, like
it's like you start building your business through word of mouth.
Yeah, and it kind of just builds itself. Just stick with it and keep doing it and make stuff work. Like I've done some things where it's like, oh, I want to move this out of the way so I can do a photography job. Like I always put work first, and it's fun for me too, though. So
well, that's kind of an important thing to kind of tag on to is like, when I started doing this, my real life was ahead of this, and then it was over the years you start watching how much you just instantly start changing that, and then it got to a point where like I started being like, no, I'm doing a podcast. And like, cause I'd be like, oh, sorry, I got to work. And then like, I remember at one of my jobs, we were going back and forth on like negotiating me staying. And I was like, I want my weekends off. And they're like, why? And I was like, cause I'm podcasting. Like, you know what I mean? Like then it started being like, well, I'm taking off of work to do Never Again stuff. All right, well, I have a convention coming up. I'm not working at all this weekend. And then the more I started doing that, the more it kind of shifted in like, it's slowly becoming real. And I think that's what takes the longest is like you have to start making it priority of it turning into a real fucking thing.
Yep, it's always so hard. It's always the worst part.
Yeah, especially because you need money to pay for an apartment.
Because you can always say, oh, I can do it. I can make it happen. And then when it starts coming real, it's like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but when you're in that position, when you just drop everything and do it, you're like, oh, I don't have anything. So you just make it work subconsciously kind of, and you just keep going. And like, oh, well, I have to pay my bills. I have to do this. I mean, you got to do it.
Yeah.
So if you're not feeling it, if you're not into it, if you're not really trying,
What were the first cars that you got into where you're able to drive the exotic cars and start taking like the real, the real stuff that kind of probably started popping your social media?
So probably a couple years ago, I started hanging around, more people with higher end cars and just working my way up, whatever. And
yeah, because you figure if you're good at your trade, the people that are hiring you to take the photos of their cars, like they have access to those cars, or they're just wealthier people that want high-end photography taken.
And I don't go around like saying, oh, I'm the bestest around, or just let me shoot your car or whatever. Like they know I appreciate cars and, build a friendship off of that.
You're a car guy who also is really into photography.
Yeah. So I'm not, I don't know, there's a lot of kids running around, that's on the social media, like, oh, let me shoot your car. And it's kind of ruining, that. Because people, that's what they make a living off of, photography. And you're like, oh, I'll shoot your car for free just for content. Like,
a lot of people do it in the food scene.
Yeah. I mean,
let me come into your restaurant. Can I have free food? I'm going to post about it.
Yeah.
And then they don't get anything out of it. And then in 2 years, nobody's going to go to restaurants, and people aren't going to give a shit about influencers doing food stuff.
Yeah.
And it's hard because there's people who care, and there's people who help the restaurants out, and then there's people who, like you said, they're kids. They're just cool. I'm doing this for 6 months, and then you try and make money off of it, and it's very hard.
Because like they can like photography wise, they're learning real quick. They're learning so quick, and it's like, well, because they can learn quicker from the internet anyway. You know,
Yeah.
like we had to actually work up to it. And
Yeah.
So, they learn everything so fast. So they're like, I just do it for free. Like, they're not even old enough to drive half of them, And they're like, but, I have all these followers on Instagram. I can get you all this. Like, okay, but we're doing that for a living. You're kind of just,
Yeah, what are you building?
Yeah. And that's the thing. They don't have the true passion for it. What they see on the internet is like, I want to do that. It's like, okay, but they don't have the same feel with it.
Yeah.
They kind of they can get bored of it real
Just
quick.
trying to recreate content.
Yeah. They're like, it's like, you don't appreciate what you're actually doing. Like, you're doing good artwork, but it doesn't come from the same place,
Yeah.
It's kind of how
You're
I
making
feel.
a TikTok.
Yeah.
Because you want 100,000 followers because you think that people are going to contact you and tell you that they're going to give you money. That doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah. Well, how many kids do you ask, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
What do you want to do on YouTube? Well, I don't know.
YouTube's a tough landscape to get through.
I can't see that being easy.
It's not.
Instagram, you got to be up on your shit.
Yeah.
YouTube is.
Yeah, it's hard to do both.
So much
and it's
more.
like, I'm going to definitely dive into YouTube and hit it harder, like, especially because you have to be at 1,000 subscribers to monetize, and it's not even a lot of money, but to me, it's like, cool, you can pay the electric bill with YouTube. That's how I look at shit. Like, I'm not, like, trying to make... I hope to make money, like real money, and like be very fucking, smart with business and get into other businesses after I open the next one. And I hope to have like passive incomes and be smart with my money. But at the same time, I'm also like, cool. Like if I can get Patreon and that pays the electric bill and then YouTube pays the rent and then my sponsors cover the rest of the shit, I'm living a pretty free life. And to me, that's worth way more than... a bunch of shit, trying to like make fake content to get followers or pay for followers. And then like, like what you said, like when people do that shit, especially locally, it's like you got somebody who's just buying followers and telling people that their Facebook's going to make them thousands of dollars. And then when it doesn't, and they're overcharging the person and then basically taking money from small businesses and then fucking it up. It just makes my job harder. It sucks.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do now.
So easy. That's what I mean. Like these kids, they're all young and getting on the internet. I don't know. There's weird things on the internet and weird ways to make money. And I can't knock it, If you're making money, you're doing it. You're doing the work. But still, it's like, I want to really take pride in work.
Yeah. So like
in general.
when you started kind of climbing that ladder and getting into those crazy cars, what was that like? What was that like the first time you went and shot? It's like super,
yeah, all that stuff. I kind of.
What was the first one? What was the first big one? A Ferrari?
Well, a solo shoot, like not at a show or any kind of.
No, like
event.
hired by someone and you like flew out and like, because wasn't a while you were like really in with a couple of different guys that you were kind of just like able to take their cars and go shoot them, and you kind of had like a little bit of freedom with it.
Kind of do that now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been been doing that for a bit. I mean, most of the time they drive them, but now with what I'm doing now, it's just take the car out and shoot it and take it to events, higher end stuff. So
what was that like the first time you got to do that? It's not normal to do that.
So I'm put into cars that I like
Yeah.
that I would never have had the opportunity to drive. And he's like, hey, you're driving this car. I'm like, you would put me in this. He's like, well, you want one? Go freaking drive one. Here's your opportunity. I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, that's awesome. So granted, it's not, my car. So, I'm still...
Who cares? It's still
I'm
fun.
still... I had a blast doing it. And,
Were you working for dealerships or anything like that?
I did do some dealership work.
Yeah.
They hired me to do their more important work.
Yeah.
And I was actually on some billboards in the area. So
Well, I was going to say probably like website, billboard,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So I will admit my weak part of photography is I'm not a graphic designer. I can't do any of the Photoshop work.
Yeah.
So I can't fill all the holes in certain businesses where it's like, oh, we need a media guy. I'm like, I can do this much of it, you know? So
it's hard to do it all. I mean,
Yeah.
even like now it's like, I know my strength and my weakness, and then, it's easier to give somebody else the work, especially if that person is also trying to build something. So like,
Yeah.
Zach from 10th Planet, he found a Sean, he's out of Sri Lanka, and like he's building his own business and he's doing all these things, and it's crazy that Zach even found him, but it's just like now I'll just like get mock-ups and I'll be like, send it over to a Sean and be like, you do you. I need this to look like a flyer and I need it to look sexy and I'm going to put it at the end of a video, and he's got it done in 24 hours. I can't do any of that. I don't have the time to learn that.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying before about like the first car I shot.
Yeah.
Like first expensive high-end car, like I got time with here's the keys, go do it,
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. It was, I do remember one specifically being a Ferrari. Obviously the past couple of years have been a little gooby.
Yeah.
with my memory. Here's the keys. This is for, shoot this for my business, but it's going in a magazine. Oh, okay. So it's kind of, again, piggybacking off of other stuff. But it was for a dealership in Philly for Ferrari. So I got my time with it. He goes, I want this shot right here. Like, he was explaining to me what he wanted. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, all the horses are all pointing the same way. The wheel has to be, a certain way, all this. He's like, I want this shot. As long as I get that shot, you can do whatever else you want with the car. Do your own thing. He goes, you know what you want. You're the photographer. So
that's the best way to let somebody work.
And I said the same thing, like tattoos. I'm like,
Yep.
Look, here's my ideas.
Yep.
You're the tattoo. You feel better doing the art that you like.
Yeah.
I feel like tattoo artists have like really hard job. Like, yeah, you're an artist, but like you have to draw what someone else wants, not what you want. And that's kind of how I feel with photography. Is shooting the cars. Like, hey, shoot my car. I'm like, I don't like this car, and you feel bad because it's like you don't interact with the car like you would on something you like. But so shooting that Ferrari was fun. Seeing it in the magazine.
Did you get to drive it?
I didn't drive that one.
Yeah.
Not far anyway. I have drove one last week though.
Yeah, doggy.
So, the next day it's a Porsche, and then it's whatever.
That's
else,
fun though.
Yeah. So having someone say, "Hey, here's the keys. Here's an address. Go there." Okay.
And then now you're just kind of doing like on-site stuff.
Yeah. So yeah.
How much did that start building after you did the first one? Because were you allowed to use the photos for your social media?
Not at first.
Yeah.
And after the fact, when they weren't, they didn't publish certain photos or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, you could use them. That was years ago.
Yeah.
So it's not even big deal now.
Yeah, now they would want you to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's weird, like, I guess, laws with social media. About, like, they can steal your post. But, like, what if I stole that from someone else and I got, it's...
Yeah.
Because, like, you can almost take pretty much anything from the internet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's like, oh, yeah, well, that's totally legal. That never used to be. My watermark, my name's on it and everything. Yeah. So, I do have a website. And everything's watermarked on that. Like, you can't steal that. But,
yeah, do you update that a lot, too?
Oh, like, pretty much every time I shoot, I have just add another client.
Yeah.
On the page, on another gallery.
That's really cool.
I know whatever events I'm doing, I'll throw those on there. Just so,
yeah.
That, like, rather than, downloading everything to my phone and sending to people. Or
well, how did you build the
like,
business up to that point where you're now doing events and, like, you're kind of, like, needed a website to put up? I mean, because it's not... I mean, when you start out, you're always like, I need a website. But then you need to figure out how to make money or the purpose for the website, or you just end up spending a bunch of money on nothing, which I've done over the years. But
you learn that way sometimes.
Yeah. So like, how did you start building the business out? Was it just traction, and then you started falling in love with it? You started getting paychecks for it, and then being like, hey, there's like an opportunity here while you're working a full-time job, and then you just kind of start trying to make the same money you are at that job, or just trying to get to a point where you can just get by.
Yeah. I mean, I got lucky. I'll say it's luck with a lot of things. Schedule for my full-time job at the time, 4 days a week, off weekends. I'm like, this is freaking perfect, Yeah. And that's so much time off I could take off whenever, So I had that going for me. So that really helped. I can control the photography stuff. And then whenever I wasn't working, I'm trying to just get jobs going, get any kind of photography going. But, yeah.
Where did it go after that? Like, when you started getting the jobs going like that, and you're picking up more clientele, now you're kind of like picking people up to that are kind of like hiring you to go out, and like, because I see sometimes, which is cool, is like you'll like go out with 3 cars, and like that's just fun to me. And that, what a cool thing to be able to put out on social media, where you like just put out the, like, you got like just even the stupid shit of like people passing and just hearing the car. It's so cool. And then you see the photography, the next post of like how the car looks, and it's always really dope shit. Like or I'll see like Jake Daney will go out on the bikes and stuff. So like I love seeing stuff like that where the guys take out and they got a photographer with them, and then like you then see like how talented you are at your job, where like you then see the finished product of just driving down 33.
Yep.
And then it's just like, yo, this shit looks like Need for Speed, like the cover. It's cool to see the transformation on that. So now kind of like where we're at is like, you know, you've been building this business up, you're still working a full-time job, you're trying to make the jump, you know, and like where's kind of like the peak of it where like you kind of like have just, all right, fuck it, I got to go over.
So I've actually been trying to work on this for many years, where I know so many people with some kind of automotive shop. And I'm like, you need some, you know, social media's getting big. You kind of need someone to, you know, keep everything going and, you know, just make you look good. Because it's a lot of work. It's, you know, you can get it done quick, but it's a lot of work. It's just, there's always something new car coming in. Oh, it's not bad. And then go to edit and, you know, there's just a lot going on. I'm like, I can just do this for you. Like, it's not worth me coming out this far, you know, shooting a car for a little bit and go, like, if you hire me full time, like I'm, you know, so
You're
I was like, I wanted to be, you know, in house. I wanted to do, you know, wanted to be there for, you know, for something, for a business. Okay, you know, asking people, I was like, no, if you need this, you know, like trying to sell myself, you know, again.
And I feel like with what you're doing too, you're almost like, it's like a niche thing where like, if you sold somebody on the idea, when they would actually figure out what you were giving them, it would be worth what you would be getting paid to do it. And like, it's hard to like sell people on that idea, but it's actually such a simple idea that you should be doing.
Yeah.
And if you understand the concept and understand content and understand what they're getting out of it, you could really build a profile of a shop with super high-end stuff and then have somebody to capture all kinds of other things other than that, and then just keep the social media going.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I'm at now. I found that someone.
Good
like,
for you.
I was like, hey man,
that must have been a really long, aggravating, very frustrating, stressful 20-some fucking years that you had to put up with.
Yeah, it was because I knew what I wanted. I'm like, yeah, I can work for myself, but like, I kind of want to just have, you know, go to work and just. I didn't want the full, maybe responsibility, maybe laziness. I don't know, but I wanted to be part of something too. Yeah.
The freedom of like not hating going to work.
Yeah,
and like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
and then getting to work, and then it's like, cool. Like I can use my trade that I taught myself to better this business and grow opportunities while working here.
Yep. And you know, we met. The guy I work for now, we met, you know, a couple years ago, just through cars, obviously. That's how I meet everybody. And he's like, oh, I'll start my own thing. And from there, you know, you do good photos and just building up. And hey, it's time to do this now for both of us, you know. So kind of where we're at now. And
so where did it start? He obviously has a shop.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like were kind of going back and forth on it. And then you guys kind of took the leap of like you becoming in-house and working for him.
Yeah, for sure. Like getting the whole thing started, you know, I was there from, you know, obviously before the beginning and just trying to be there, and it's like building up, you know, obviously you have to build all that up before you have someone kind of like me.
Yeah.
Not the most important thing. Get all your work done first and then you can, you know, build from there. But I was doing any help I could, like just showing initiative. Like I want to do this. Anytime you need me, you know,
Yeah.
you know, I'm doing whenever I can, you know, I'll be down here.
Plus you're also a car guy on top of it.
Yeah. And like, that's where it is. Like anyone who knows me, like I've been around cars forever. That's how I know most of the people, you know?
Yeah.
And then they know someone who, you know, again. But yeah, finally finding that, like, just felt so good.
So what's an average day like now for you at this, basically what you were building at for your career to be a photographer inside of the car world?
Yeah, still starting out now. It's just me and him.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, a little busy.
But that's good though.
Yeah, good, and you learn a lot real quick. 'Cause
Yep.
There's a lot of learning from me because I'm not just doing photography. I'm trying to take, you know, there's a lot of other stuff going on, you know, in the business. So just trying to learn as I go. So we just need more people to work, and
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing, you know, for a lot of people right now is to find people to work.
It's weird how people don't want to work.
I don't understand it at all. I just can't.
No.
I don't. Like, I don't know. What do you do?
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you do?
I don't know.
So I don't understand. Like, it's not even like money for me. Well, like, I need money to survive. Well, yeah, we all do. But like,
Yeah.
people don't care.
Yeah.
I can't get that mindset. I don't know. It doesn't matter what position
I
I'm
always
in.
have to be
I
doing
wanna
something.
yeah.
Always have to be
And like
doing
you said, I
something.
put myself in, this situation where it's like, this is what I want to do for a living. I'm
Yeah.
having fun for it, so I'm going to push for it. And everyone's like, oh, you're going to make your hobby a job. This and that. Everybody always ends up hating it. And I was like, this is what I've done for more than half of my life.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I said,
what
I haven't
what
gotten
you
tired
probably
of it.
hated was not getting paid
Yeah.
to do
Pretty
it
much,
and then
yeah.
having to do other shit you don't like doing.
Yeah.
That's like the big thing that like there's so many people that just do shit that they don't like doing all the time.
Yep.
And to me that was always the big thing to change. And then now that I changed it, it's like I have so much more opportunity now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there's probably way more avenues of you doing this than if you were stuck at a fucking factory.
Yep.
Even if you're only working 4 days a week and having the weekends off, you still can't do it all. And then
Yeah.
when I made the jump, and I want to know how that is for you, is like when you started realizing that like the time you were spending at a full-time job is the time that you needed in order to take the jump because you need the whole day to work on your shit.
Yeah.
Even now, it's like I don't have enough time to do all this shit. But it's like I'm trying to make a better like utilization of my time and like build businesses that make money and like, you start doing things in little pockets. But like I was never able to do this and
Yeah.
work the post office. Like that's not real life.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked like figuring out the times. That was like actually an interesting thing to me. It's like, oh,
It was weird.
Yeah, I was like, I'm working a full time, but it's like, oh, I kind of want to. It's fun to play around and figure out when to do things
Yeah,
and how
yeah.
how you can do things.
I still
and
do
like,
that a lot.
Yeah, and then you start start meeting people and networking, and I love that so much. I'm like, I gotta figure out a way just to get paid to do this. Like,
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things is just meeting. It's a very insecure thing to take the jump, and it's a very insecure thing to run a business. And the amount of people that I meet in here that are doing it has made me so much more comfortable about trying to take risks and do things for a business. That it just makes everything easier because I constantly surround myself, and like I stopped listening to people who don't run a business, to people who don't understand what I'm trying to do. Negative people who are like, he's gonna fail. When I started drinking again, I got so much shit for that. And nobody talks about that I'm about to open a restaurant and I started drinking again. Everyone leaves that part out, but that was the biggest part of my life that everyone told me what to do with my life. And if I wouldn't have done that, it wouldn't have dominoed into anything I'm doing now. And I never get credit. I don't want credit. I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. But like, I look at things that people tell, and I just had a conversation with a girl before you came on here, and I get pissed off when people shit on or try and give people bad advice when they're trying to do something that they care about. And
Yeah.
like, I got so much shit for that. Nobody talks about that anymore. It just time went by and Mike drinks, but it's like, well, remember when you guys said I was going to throw my life away and I was going to end up in rehab and that I couldn't do this anymore and I fucked up so bad and I threw away all that sobriety and my whole life was going to be over and I do whatever the fuck I want now.
Yeah.
No one talks about that. All people do is like they try and make you feel like you can't do something because they don't have the courage to do it. And like when I hear stories like yours, and you brushed through a lot of it and everybody does on here because a lot of people don't talk about like what the amount of hard work it was. Like I knew you over the years and you'd be like, I got this job, I got that job. And you start listening to people and I had 50 fucking thousand jobs, and it sucks when you're just trying to do something you love and then you have people telling you, well, you need to have a career, you need to keep a career, you're not going to make money off of cameras. Why would you do that? And then if you keep going and you don't give up and you shovel shit and put up with it for however as long as it takes, 22 years, it'll eventually pay off. And then you start learning, you'd start taking skill sets you learn from the car industry, and now you can use your knowledge of that and who you know to get into this business with your friend, and now the two of you are growing something together and doing exactly what you want. Like, it's got to be a freeing thing, man, but fucking congrats to you for doing it. It ain't fucking easy. Everybody who comes on here, like, it's brushed over, but like, I couldn't imagine the amount of horseshit that you went through to become a photographer in the car world and get paid.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I got a lot of, good support.
Yeah,
got a lot
I
of people-
definitely get good support.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everyone's like,
talking
fuck
shit.
you.
Oh, Mike, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude sucks.
Yeah, there's way more people rooting me on,
the
but
fuck has a podcast anymore?
yeah, everybody. But you know, it's just that's the shit I remember. That's what keeps me going. It's like what keeps me going.
My thing is, you're like, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, cars and photography.
Isn't that weird that you eventually, like, I'm now comfortable saying that, but isn't it weird to say it to people? Like, it's almost like I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then like I was out somewhere and they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I run an apparel company. I always lead with that, which I don't really do anymore, but I lead with that because it's less weird than I make a living podcasting. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I'm like, oh, well, I run an apparel company and then I have a podcast and then like I do this burger thing and then I just kind of like change the subject. Like,
Just run through the list of everything you do.
I'm just like, these two things, I gotta go. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I get that question, like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, basically take pictures and play with cars.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I'm like, it's just what I do. Like, oh, okay. Like, I can't explain it. Like,
When did you transition into doing that? Recently? This year?
this was actually
During COVID? That must have been
like a
fun.
month ago.
Yeah.
I started at the shop actually about a month, like in March.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but like I said, I was there when I wasn't working, doing whatever I was doing at the time. If I wasn't working,
So then
I
your
was there at
job
the
for
shop.
him is basically like, because what is the shop and what do they do at the shop?
So we specialize in BMWs, maintenance, performance. Any basically anything, and then we'll do Porsche and exotic stuff. People see our sign like, oh, you actually get a Lamborghinis in here? And I'm like, yeah, our business partner actually has a Lamborghini. So,
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's always a Lamborghini, and like that's our least favorite.
Yeah.
We don't like those. We don't like expensive Volkswagens. I mean, yes, they're awesome, but
Yeah.
compared to some of the stuff, But what's really cool is like we get to tune cars, and they go, they actually race these cars, and they're usually high end cars, and
That's got to be fun getting in shit like that.
yeah, I actually was in the middle of a shoot one time, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, I actually saw McLaren drive by like the other day." I'm like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Yeah, it was like a blue or purple or something." I saw him parked at Wendy's eating freaking Wendy's. I'm like, "That was me." He's like, "What? Fuck you, man. That's awesome." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And I get a lot of. This is where I get the shit when I'm telling people what I do. And I get so excited because I have so much pride in it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I get to play with these cars, this and that,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, that's my thing. Like, oh, must be nice, which is the
Yeah.
dumbest fucking comment ever.
Yeah.
And then oh, were you just bragging? I was like, no, this is all I do.
Yeah.
Like, what do I
You
do for
asked
work?
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what I do for work. Oh, I do this. Like, what do you do for fun? I do the same thing for work and fun. Like what? No, like, what else do you do? It's like, I'm by myself all the time. Like, or I'm with my car friends.
So when the clients come in, do they want photography added into what they're doing, or are you doing the photography to build out like the social media?
Yeah.
And like, do the clients care if you like kind of take the car, or do they suggest to do it so they get photography in it as well?
So for the most part, we just shoot at the shop, like when we're done, to build our presence.
Yeah.
Like
Why
we wanna
wouldn't
be-
you?
Yeah, exactly. And you do the same shot every time, so your page is all organized and whatever
Yeah.
else, for the most part. But like we do events, like we just flew to Miami and all ripped down to Key West for a little rally.
So when you go down there, are you going down there to set up and then sell you guys as the performance shop that they would come to?
Yep.
And then you're just kind of there to make a presence, to kind of build your name in the community. And then but then with having you there, now that you can build social media and then like, this is why like, I think it's awesome that, the guy you're working with sees the vision, because if he's got you coming, now your Instagram is now telling a story of you guys going to Key West.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that and you have to keep getting different people in to do that, it doesn't work out at all. I know a bunch of people who have tried to sell that story and do that. And if you have kids doing it, or you're trying to get somebody to do it for free, and you don't have somebody that works with you and sees your vision, like Quentin over at Finishers, like that dude's awesome over there because he rolls and he gives a shit about the school growing.
Yeah.
So, like that's why that works. So like to have somebody in-house and then you get to go travel and do all that shit, man, you must be having a fucking ball. I mean, I'm sure it's stressful and like you have responsibilities, but like that's got to be so awesome to finally do that. And then to be able to go to Key West and do all that. And like, I think it's cool that like your shop's like proactive in like putting their name out there.
Yeah,
Do you do
for
stuff
sure.
locally too?
We do as much local stuff as we can. Like I said, we usually aim for like the higher end exotic stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll still show up. We'll even support other people. Like we know people that put on shows, or whatever. So we'll support them.
So what do you do? Do you guys just set up a booth and then have information? So like if people are there with like BMWs or like higher end stuff, they can get like like you're basically selling them on the garage.
Yeah. And Yeah, and it's funny because I actually get clients out of that for freelance stuff. It's like, oh yeah, I was like, you took pictures of my car on.
Yeah, I'm
it's
sure.
Like, or we have people come in. We had someone come in recently, like, oh, you have a celebrity working here. I'm like, don't I hate that comment, but yeah, like it feels good to hear that. But at the same time, I'm like, don't gotta say that. I'm like, there's a million photographers out there, automotive photographers especially. Like they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm still working. I'm your own worst critic. So.
Yeah, but it's crazy to see how far you've come from even the last time we interviewed and what you were trying to do back then.
Yeah.
And then, to
now
having to do jobs and then work.
Now my dream jobs are just every day now kind of thing.
Yeah, and then it's like what's crazy though is like that's where it starts. And then it's like you don't know where it's going to go after that, or like how much, social media is going to change, or like how the shop changes, or like how much you're going to help the shop grow, or like your presence down there and doing all the local stuff. I mean, it sounds like you guys do some cool shit.
Yeah, I mean, we have fun doing it. Like,
who's all involved?
Just me and him, and we have a business partner.
Yeah,
so,
that's probably the best way to have it.
Yeah,
just short. It's like when you say you're going to Key West, you don't have to bring 10 people.
Yeah. But we do need more people hands-on in the shop. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
right
setting
now.
all that shit up.
And just working on the cars, because like we have to do all the other, all the other stuff, all the social media, and keeping everything organized. There's, it's running a business.
Yeah.
But you need your workers to,
Where did you guys open? You said Hellertown?
Hellertown, yep.
Yeah.
So down Saucon Valley area, which, that's our kind of our target market down
People
there.
got money in Saucon Valley. I got a friend who lives there. He definitely bitches about the taxes. They got money.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, we think about that too. And we actually want to open up a shop in Miami. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
That's a thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went down, because we were down there. We're talking to people, and we're like, they have their McLarens and their Ferraris, and we're like, your stuff can be can be fixed there. It's not up to 100%. And they're like, wow, trying to help them out with their car. And like, yeah, no one here knows what the hell they're doing. Like, yeah, clearly,
Yeah.
So, and then you meet people that way. Now we have friends that down there, like, or business partner lives down there. So
I want to do. It's funny you said that, because I would love to do. I have a goal in probably 3 years. I can pull it off, where I'm going to buy a home in Florida somewhere, and I think it would be pointless to own a home here and do everything I'm doing and then drive to a home and then drive back to the studio and the bagel shop. Like, it'd be pointless to pay a mortgage in an empty house. And you know what I mean? It's like a boiler room when he's like, did he just move in here? It's like, no. So like, the idea of, and I love that you guys are even thinking of that, because it shows how far ahead you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it's like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, I could easily I can find a bungalow anywhere in Florida, Miami, anywhere. Whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Get a house, dump money into it, put a second studio into it, because by that time I'll know so much about studios, because I'll be running a TV studio for 3 years. So I can do that, and then I can now start flying out there, and then I can start networking and doing podcasts in Florida in studio, and then I can do exactly what I'm doing here and growing it out. And now people in Florida know me like the people do in the Lehigh Valley, and then now I'm getting twice the coverage.
Exactly.
And then I'm like, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
That's what I want to do, because it's like I'm going to have to work at the kitchen and build that menu and help put a sustainable, strong hold on that business to make it run and operate. But our goal is, in like probably 3 years, is for myself and my partner involved to step back, and then it's just, you let it run. You hire the correct people. So like when it hits that, I'm like, all right, well, what do you do then? All right, well, there's time, and I have a passive income, and then I could just leave. And then I was like that's the fun stuff, like with where you're at, where it's like I can leave.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, when that clicked in my head, I was like, oh, I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
And you guys are in the same boat.
Yep.
Because that's what a fucking awesome idea to do that.
Yeah.
And even if you kept 2 small versions of it and booked cars out there, you could go out there and work for 6 months.
The snowbird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what a great idea, because all you would have to do is just find the correct landlord, or like be able to pay
Well, partner
Yeah.
is a real estate agent.
There
so.
you go. Yo, that's so much fun. That's fun even thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's cool that you guys are like that proactive with like going
You
out
gotta
to
be.
Yeah.
Again, especially like with how everything's going so fast again. It's like you have
Yeah.
to be way ahead of everybody. You know, like I'm gonna start this up now. Well, you're late. You know, so you're always thinking ahead. You have to push forward because if you're not pushing now, if you're like, oh, I'm good here, you're not. You
No.
have to be way ahead.
Always ahead.
Yeah.
Because like even when I was down here, I knew this would be 5 years down here.
Yeah.
And it's going. I think it is 5, 6. And then I knew like going into the next spot, that's a 10-year canvas for me. So I got 10 years over there. Like I can stay there for 10 years and be able to keep working.
Yeah.
But I know in 5 I want to pivot and do something else. It's just how I think. And I like the other thing too is when you start getting confidence in the way you think, where it's like, oh, like I can do whatever I want. So like I should pay attention that I want to make that move because the moves that you're making are the correct ones. And like that's cool seeing stuff like that with growth. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of it with everything you had to do to get to where you're at.
Yeah, I just always stayed busy. Everyone's like, oh, how do you have time for anything? I try to satisfy all my friends. Like, my friends were a big part of, how I got to where I am now. Like, I still, appreciate them, like, for everything they did. Like, always, I learned a lot from shooting their cars. Like, I can just fuck around, do whatever with their cars. Like, oh yeah, we'll get pictures tomorrow. Like, who gives a shit, So like, I'm always out. We're always doing something. So like, always have my camera. So I'm shooting their cars, always learning off of them. And then again, they know someone like, oh yeah. And then you just
What's your
build up.
schedule at the shop like now?
So it's a 9 to 5 pretty much, which is weird for me because I've never had one of those. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out.
But then
where
it also
I am.
leaves you time to go out and get footage.
Yeah.
So you're like doubling down on social media every day.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I have more time. I tell people it's like I have more time to do everything, and weekends are a little bit because in the summer we're trying to do as many events as possible just to get our presence out there, and we do a lot of.
What do you guys
stuff
do
in Pocono.
locally? Do you because you guys started doing something with Seven Sirens, or like I know that like I saw, I follow like Rose Lux and all that stuff, and just other local people supporting each other. But like, do you kind of like are you in that gambit of the local stuff, or are you just kind of like only doing the higher end stuff because of what the shop is? Like, what do you guys really primarily do if anybody would want to come out and start checking you guys out?
Well, we always try to team up with other businesses, like just help each other out.
Yeah.
Like again, piggyback off each other. I'm using that term a lot, but that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Like, and then we actually got into me and his relationship. We're like, hey, bring your people and see if they work. Okay, we'll bring your people, see if they work.
Yeah.
And, kind of thing, and you just find your way there, and whoever works out. But yeah, just make a presence.
Yeah.
Pretty much all we really do. We like to. Just, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Try
mean,
to
you have
show
to,
up as much as you can, really.
You have to do all that stuff because there's some people who don't follow you, and there's some people who don't know who you are. And then when like you go to those events and you start meeting people who like live and die with cars, and they go to all the events, and like that's what they do all summer, and then they meet you, and then you don't know what relationship's going to build out of that. I mean, it's what I used to do back in the day for the in the tattoo conventions and stuff when I used to just would just do the convention runs. I mean, you know how all that stuff works. It's you got to get out there, you got to put your face on it as much as you might not want to do it.
You got to spend a lot of money that you don't want to spend.
Yeah, I mean, even with the pop-ups, it's like now it's like, like our idea of when we open is being pushed back, and I'm like, cool, like we are coming into like prime pop-up season.
Yeah.
That's what I make the most money I do anymore now off of that.
Yep.
So it's like you got to get out there, you got to hit the breweries, you got to get the burger to people, you got to sell all this shit, you got to network with everybody. It's like when I do those pop-ups, it's like I play music, I try and make it an atmosphere. It's like I fuck around with Gino a lot so people are laughing. Like we bought a second tent so you don't got to stand out in the sun. It's like I'd like to get high tops. Like you got to make it like so people feel like they're a part of something.
That's I say that all the time, and like
it's so important.
Yeah, like when they're trying to build their social media or just build a website or anything, I was like, people just want to be a part of something. They don't even care what it is half the time. Like, just be a part of it. Like, oh, they acknowledge me or whatever. Like, they feel like they met a celebrity or like, they get that, feeling. It's like they just want to be a part of something. And if you
Yeah,
interact,
I
if
know
you
how
interact
it
with
feels
people-
when somebody I follow interacts with me, or they make a comment when you say something to them in the stories. I try
Yeah.
and talk to everybody that fucks with my shit.
Yeah.
Or like I did the comedy thing down here, and like I tried to invite people who fuck with my stuff, and then like I invited people who I thought would want to come, and they would just kind of be like, "Oh, I don't know if I can make it." And then I was like, "Wait a minute." I was like, "Why don't I ask the people who show up to every pop up?"
Yeah.
And then when I started asking those people, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to go to this?" I started filling the room.
Yep.
And then it's like there is like a core community that you start building out of, and it's like that's like the grassroots of it. And then
Yeah.
it's like, you know, you don't know what car business you're gonna pick out of that.
Yeah.
And that's like, and then you start making, you know, selling merch, doing different stuff. You start making people feel like they're a part of it. Then they come out to see you and they hang out in the booth, and then like, you know, you don't know what comes out of that, but that's so important to do. I met so many people last year running the gauntlet on food, and it was like, but it was all, you know, I picked up sponsors. I'm rubbing elbows with restaurant owners now, which is huge for me
Nice.
because I need so much. I need that, like, they're not just like people, like I sit down with them and they give me like real advice from when they were in my shoes and started their businesses. And like I repay it by bringing them back on here and work as hard as I can to get asses in seats to go buy a Giacomo's cheesesteak or go to Pat's. But it's like those relationships built from me feeding people in the Lehigh Valley and then people talking about that and then basically growing your network through grassroots shit.
Yep. Yeah. And that's how, like, people know me. They're like, oh, I see your watermark on all the photos. And it's like, they just want to, you know, get photos by me. Because, like, you know, they would say, oh, you're the one to go to. Which it makes me feel good. But, like, I also, like, support other photographers a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, dude, like, you're freaking awesome, man. And, like, some of them have, like, great opportunities. I'm like, take that and run. They're like, oh, well, you know. I'm like, dude, you are awesome. You're already there. You
There's
know?
so many people in different lanes.
You just tell them mindset, some of them, you know?
I just met a kid, I don't know how old he is. I've started following him on social media, and he used to take car photography, and now he does sky photography, where he's like doing shit at night, and it's like all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was cool to talk to him, but I'm bringing him on just to find out where he's at. And then it's like there are other photographers in the area who are like really fucking talented, who are doing all these crazy different things, and they all have an individual story.
Yeah.
And they're all doing really cool shit and trying to make careers out of it, and they're just always and it's always the same people that you run into, where it's like the people that want to work. The people that want to work, that's what they do for a living, because
I don't
they
think
just
they want to
work.
work. They want to
Yeah,
they want to have a
Well, you end up working way more.
well, yeah. It's like, this is my hobby. I want to just have
Yeah,
fun and do
it's-
this.
Yeah.
And they end up, you know, it becomes work. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been happy doing this, and I just get so excited. Like, I actually want to go.
Yeah, I
to work
want to come
every day.
down and I want to check the shop out and meet everybody and just kind of, I'll come down there for a couple hours and shit, and then
Yeah.
maybe we'll go over to Crossroads. What's your go-to spot for food down there?
Oh man, there's not that many options.
Oh, how
Like-
dare you! There's,
Well, you might have a different opinion. Yeah.
what do you guys
As far
like
as
to
quick,
eat?
what's
Yeah.
okay? Do you have an idea for anything quick rather than sit down place?
I don't go to Crossroads. Well, you can get takeout from them. I didn't try the drip yet. Everybody's hemming and hawing about that place. Their chicken sandwich does look crazy.
I mean, I like beer muscles.
What's the beer muscles isn't bad.
Because it's like a, you know, an old bar.
What's the and then there's what's that, Braveheart?
Bravehearts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
It's down
know.
there
I don't
somewhere.
I went in there once and I think I went there twice. It's not something I go to. And then what else is down there? The Lost Tavern. They always have the
Lost
food
Tavern,
trucks. That's
yeah.
fast. There's
Yeah.
food down there, man. You guys are
Well,
too busy wrenching.
Yeah. Well, if you see the way we eat, and every time we go out to dinner, it's like, oh, you guys won't eat here. Yo, they got my Dino Nuggets or what? You know.
I'll come down. First of all, I am not a snob with food. I love a good gas station roller hot dog. So I'll come down, I'll hang out, and then I'll either bring you guys food or I'll figure out what you guys eat, and then we'll just kind of I don't want to interrupt anything, but I just want to kind of hang out for like an hour down there. It sounds like it sounds like you guys are doing some cool shit.
Yeah. We'll pick a day when we have some sweet cars in there.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I mean, but we'll get
can-
social media out of it.
We can also give you a ride in some sweet cars.
Yeah, we can get a ton of. Well, I mean, we'll talk more after the show, but there's shit that we and you wanted to do when you were in here, and I didn't even have any video equipment. We can start doing shit like that, where we can start. You know, we'll talk more after this.
Yeah.
I wanted to just thank you for coming on. We've known each other for so long, and where both of our paths have went since you came into the first interview and couldn't talk and then lost your voice up until what you're doing now. I think it's awesome. And I know the whole time you were trying to do photography and you had jobs and then jobs you liked, jobs you hated, and there's always life and things happening. And, there's you trying to trace a dream, and then there's real life that fucks everything up into it. And I know you've had your fucking ups and downs with that. So for you to be coming out on top of all of this hard work, all this shit from when you were a kid into cars and growing up in it, it's a fucking rad story. And I think it's really cool, and you should feel super accomplished with where you're at. I want to give you the chance to plug the shop's social media, your social media, if anyone wants to get a hold of your photography, or if anybody wants to kind of go to the shop for car stuff, they can as well.
Yeah, social media is just Lehigh Valley Motors. It's on Instagram, Facebook. We're right down on Front Street in Hellertown. So any BMW, Mercedes, Porsche, anything exotic, do maintenance, performance, whatever you need.
Cool.
Can make it happen.
What's your personal?
Well, I have a few, but
do you know them all? Yeah. I'm gonna put all this shit.
You know what's funny? I was gonna say
post.
this earlier about how the photography page, that should be my main page, right? That's my business page. No, the personal page, which is just cars, it's not me. I never put my face on the internet. Like that. That gets more likes. That gets more attention. I'm like, the same car I posted yesterday, why does it have a couple thousand likes? It's the same car. The past how many years I've owned the car. But you go on the photography page and,
it's still
something different.
Oh,
every day,
what's your
something
photography
different.
website?
Yeah. Website is jcolephoto.net. And Instagram is jcole_photo.
Cool. I'll have all that stuff in the links.
Awesome.
I appreciate you coming out. If you're a first-time listener,
man.
first-time watcher, subscribe to the YouTube. We're halfway to being monetized, so that would be awesome if we can start getting paid for some of the shit we're doing on YouTube. If you go to neveragainstudio.com, that has the links to all of everything we're doing. iTunes, Spotify, search Never Again Studio, Never Again Clothing. I'll have links for that. I'm working with a new screen printer, and I'm doing drop shipping, so if anyone's looking for drop shipping or a new screen printer that's local, I have a guy and I'm doing drop shipping with him, and it's been working out really well, and I've been able to kind of get a couple other people with businesses, especially if you're a business and you don't want to spend the money up front. You can open up the drop shipping store, and then you don't got to have inventory, and then when somebody buys something, it gets shipped out. Really cool guy. I'll eventually get him on the podcast, but that's enough for me rambling. I will let you get out of here. Thank you so much for coming down and having a beer with me, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was dope. Thank you.
Awesome.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.